The nation's capital, where tomorrow at high noon, George Bush will be sworn in as the 41st President of the United States.
From Washington, NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw.
Good evening from Washington, D.C. We're atop the Department of Labor overlooking the nation's capital. The transfer of power is already underway as the incoming president and his advisors today were spelling out their intentions on a wide variety of issues. And what will George Bush tell the nation in his inaugural speech? Well, NBC's chief White House correspondent John Cochran is standing by. John, we're hearing what, about 15 minutes for that speech?
Tom, that's right. The George Bush we'll be hearing tomorrow will be long on generalities, such as the virtues he admires, but short on specific promises. His address will be short, too, about 15 minutes.
Mr. Bush told high school students today he will take a lesson from George Washington's second inaugural address, which was only 134 words long.
And then I'd want to do better than Benjamin Harrison did. I think he spoke for an hour and a half and then got pneumonia and died a few weeks later, so I'll try to do better than that tomorrow.
Bush's may be known as the good-humored presidency. The Democrats are responding in like fashion. Even the read my lips, no taxes pledge prompted kidding, like the duck test. Today, at a confirmation hearing, Democrat John Glenn presented Bush Budget Chief Richard Darman with some plastic ducks, after Darman said Bush will not try to fool Americans with hidden taxes.
If it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck. Because if ordinary people think that what we're talking about is a tax increase, it's a tax increase.
Bush's new nice guy image will help with Congress, but eventually the honeymoon will end, and when the hard ball begins on the budget deficit, we'll learn a lot more about Bush.
I think that the budget deficit is probably the biggest problem that George Bush faces.
For now, Bush is lowering expectations about quick action.
We're not coming in to correct the ills of the past. We're coming in to build on a proud record that has already been established.
Bush will also be cautious in foreign affairs, where he'll take a skeptical, unsentimental view of the Soviets. His hard-eyed pragmatism will also be evident in Central America, where Bush will reluctantly give up attempts to overthrow the Nicaraguan Marxists.
But success in foreign affairs will not guarantee a successful presidency, especially if Bush is not able to cope with the budget deficit. What is surprising at the outset, however, is how much goodwill he can count on, even from the party that hopes he'll be a one-term president. Tom?
Thank you, John. By the way, it was not Benjamin Harrison, but William Henry Harrison, who delivered that long inaugural speech in 1841 and died a month later. As for Bush's promise not to raise taxes, well, the latest NBC News Wall Street Journal poll, which is out today, shows 71% of the people surveyed saying they don't believe that he can keep that promise. NBC's Jim Miklashevsky is at the base of the Capitol where the swearing-in will take place tomorrow, and he's keeping track of the other half of this new administration, Vice President-elect Dan Quayle. Jim?
Tom, Dan Quayle has emerged from one of the shakiest campaign performances in recent political history. Somewhat bruised, but confident he's up to the task. In virtual hiding since the November election, Dan Quayle has re-emerged just in time for his inauguration. In the past few days alone, he's been spotted at the White House and with some of the biggest names in politics. At a reception today in his honor, he declared he had survived the political campaign without a scratch.
Here we are, ready to go.
But during the campaign, serious questions arose over Quayle's entrance into the National Guard and law school. He was written off by some as an intellectual lightweight and a political liability for George Bush. But now, Quayle has come out swinging against his critics.
I told you so. We've proven our critics wrong in the past. I think we'll do it in the future as well.
After the election, the Bush team launched an intensive effort to improve Quayle's image. To show Quayle is involved and up to the job, aides report he'll hit the ground running with an immediate trip to Venezuela, El Salvador, and Mexico. That he'll head the National Space Council and be an active member of the National Security Council. An active but quiet team player, molded in the image of George Bush himself.
If Vice President Quayle does what a vice president should do, namely to be seen but not heard, his image problem will have a way of going away by itself.
But Quayle has remained under intense scrutiny and found it difficult to shake the fluff image. Aides say, however, his greatest asset is George Bush's loyal support. Bush aides are confident that the worst of the Quayle problem is behind them now, but they know that the vice presidency has been the butt of jokes for more than 200 years. Their only hope now is that Dan Quayle doesn't provide any new punchlines. Tom?
Thank you, Jim. And White House officials said today that President Reagan has given a full pardon to Yankee baseball team owner George Steinbrenner, convicted of making an illegal campaign contribution to Richard Nixon in 1972. White House officials also said it does not appear that the president will pardon Patty Hearst or Iran-Contra figures Oliver North and John Poindexter before he leaves office tomorrow. Back with more in a moment.
I have just the thing for that cold.
Most kids think that medicine has to taste bad, but there's one cold medicine that relieves both kids and colds. Dimetap, grape-flavored Dimetap elixir, recommended millions of times by pediatricians and pharmacists. After all, a cold medicine can't work if you can't get it down.
You like Dimetap?
Grape-flavored Dimetap elixir. It relieves kids as well as colds.
I've never been that much of a cereal eater, or even breakfast for that matter. But then I read 2 or 3 different articles about oat bran, and I thought to myself, why would you not eat this stuff?
Medical reports have shown oat bran can be important to your good health. Kellogg's Common Sense Oat Bran has more oat bran than any leading ready-to-eat cereal.
You know, I get up 15 minutes early just so I can do this.
New Common Sense Oat Bran, a sensible thing to do.
George Bush has promised a kinder, gentler nation, but his supporters believe that they should have a good time getting there. NBC national correspondent Bob Kerr has fought his way through the fur coats, the limousines, and the cocktail parties to give us this account tonight. Bob?
Tom, this inauguration will set some new records. The most expensive, the most security, the most veal, and the most crab meat. It's a 5-day party with a $30 million price tag. It's all to celebrate the swearing-in ceremony, which was rehearsed by stand-ins today.
Oh, George. We did it, kid.
National Airport is handling 3 times its usual traffic in private jets, many owned by corporations which pay most of the cost of the festivities. And my, the limousines. In such demand, they're being brought in from New Jersey and contributing to gridlock.
It's been a tough 2 days so far, and I guess it's going to be a little bit tougher.
Tomorrow, many streets will be surrendered to floats, which arrive today. Hotel space on or near the parade route is as difficult to find as a solution to the deficit, and prices can be sky high. $15,000 for this hotel suite, complete with caviar and Rolls-Royce. Soothing music was not what frustrated Republicans wanted today, as they waited in long lines to complain about tickets they ordered but never received. Security will be unprecedented. For the first time, thousands of spectators must pass through metal detectors on the street. Today, there was a salute to the not very flashy Barbara Bush, who brought down the House by announcing that this week she's different.
And speaking of glamour, I want you all to look at me very carefully. Please notice the hair, the makeup, designer clothes. I want you to watch me all week. And remember, you may never see it again.
She poked fun at herself, but there's a show here this week taking aim at her husband.
And he won because they went for the slogan, read my lips, no new taxes. I say read my lips. They're going to raise the old ones.
There'll be plenty of time for politics later, but this is a time for partying, and several big ones are scheduled in Washington hotels like this one later tonight. Tom?
Thanks, Bob. One big Republican contributor was told it wouldn't be necessary to bring his own limousine to Washington, but he decided to anyway. He was worried that if he showed up without a limo, he'd be mistaken for a Democrat. Here's how Friday is shaping up. The Bushes and the Quayles will attend church services at 9 tomorrow morning and then call on the Reagans before going to the Capitol for the noon swearing in. The new administration will lunch with Congress, and then at 2 tomorrow afternoon, the inaugural parade gets underway. Brian Gumbel and I will be here tomorrow morning beginning at 10 Eastern Time for live coverage of it all.
Are you okay, Dad?
Sure, doctor said it's heartburn.
Heartburn and high blood pressure. Wants him to cut out salt. Well, you better do it. He will. Don't worry.
If you're one of millions of heartburn sufferers and also have to cut out salt, cut it out of your antacid, too. Riopan Plus 2 is sodium-free, and it starts neutralizing stomach acid in 10 seconds.
Dessert?
Well, you're sure feeling better, Dad.
For heartburn and indigestion, Riopan Plus 2, sodium-free, and it works fast.
Action liquid vanish, 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 clean so good, good and fresh and too.
Yes, I brush with liquid vanish.
Cause it cleans tough rust stains below the waterline better than Lysol.
Action liquid vanish, clean so good and fresh and too.
And for an easy way to help keep your bowl clean and fresh between brushings, just pop a Vanish drop-ins in the tank. It's really neat.
Garrity, that's shredded wheat, not a TV dinner.
Well, that's how we do it in Nome.
Nome? I didn't know you were from Alaska.
Not Nome, Alaska, Nome, Texas.
I never saw anyone eat shredded wheat hot before. Oh, sure. My mom used to put hot milk on it.
Try Nabisco shredded wheat in your microwave. In just a minute or two, you can have a delicious hot breakfast with no added sugar or salt.
If they microwave it in Texas, what do they do in California?
They tan it.
Nabisco.
In Miami today, people focused their attention on Sunday's Super Bowl game instead of cops and riots. The city was calm today after 2 nights of violence in black neighborhoods and hundreds of arrests. Last night, police patrols were much in evidence, but civic leaders say the worst of the trouble is over. The police say now that they expect to keep a much lower profile. And there's a growing controversy in college athletics. Discrimination against college athletes, blacks in particular, is the charge being leveled at Proposition 42. That's a new policy of the NCAA. This one calls for higher academic standards for athletic scholarships. Several colleges that supported it now say that they've changed their minds. As NBC's Kenley Jones reports tonight, it was a boycott by Georgetown University's well-known basketball coach that focused attention on this controversy.
The Georgetown basketball team played its second game in a row last night without head coach John Thompson at courtside. A protest over the NCAA's Proposition 42.
Had this been in existence when I started into school, that I would not have been provided with an opportunity to get a college education myself.
Under current NCAA rules, students can qualify for athletic scholarships by scoring 700 out of a possible 1,600 on the College Board SAT test, 15 out of 36 on the ACT, or with a 2-point average in certain high school subjects. Proposition 42 would require athletes to have both. The National Center for Fair Testing says SAT tests are culturally biased against many black students by the language they use.
Those kinds of words which virtually all middle-class kids grow up having within their vocabulary, but most inner-city kids do not.
This question on the SAT test was answered correctly by only 22% of black students. 53% of white students got it right. Critics of the test say many blacks would not know what a regatta is. Supporters of Proposition 42 say it will help to eliminate the exploitation of blacks for their athletic ability and help to prevent situations like that at Memphis State University, where not one black basketball player graduated between 1976 and 1986.
I'm not sure that it does justice to the cause of racial equality in this country to admit to universities students who are not academically qualified.
Tennis pro Arthur Ashe says the new rule is good because it will make black athletes study harder.
They are snickering at anybody who says you've got to study hard. And why are they snickering? Because they can still get their scholarship.
Some schools which voted in favor of Proposition 42 have indicated they will vote to rescind it when the NCAA convenes again next January. Kenley Jones, NBC News, Athens, Georgia.
Good news in the economy and President Reagan's last full day in office. The government announced that the inflation rate for consumer prices last year was just 4.4%.
care what I eat for breakfast.
Maybe we shouldn't discuss this while you're under the influence of sugar and preservatives.
And what should I be influenced by? Nuts and twigs?
Kellogg's Nutri-Grain cereal with no sugar added and no preservatives.
This is much better than I thought.
Yeah, kind of like me.
Dedicated to the ones we love.
Now, find out for yourself why the better taste of Nutri-Grain nuggets makes it the best tasting nugget.
What I would like you to do, Mr. Customer, Ms. Customer, is kind of ask yourself, do I make 1-minute phone calls? Most of the time, the answer is no. Think about when you see a comparison that states a time. Look at that chart and say, are these the calls that I make with this length of time on that particular day of the week? Generally speaking, the longer the call, the lesser the cost differential between AT&T and any of its competitors.
There's an enemy in your car's engine. Cold. Some motor oils have poor pumpability and can't flow fast enough in cold weather. They can damage your engine and send it to an icy grave. You need the special quality of Pennzoil motor oil. Pennzoil has the right pumpability to flow faster and protect your engine. Conquer the enemy cold with the world-class protection of Pennzoil.
Where's the burning feeling?
Here.
For that heartburn, nobody does as much as Extra Strength Malox Plus. Where are the gas pains?
Here.
For that gas and indigestion, nobody does as much as Extra Strength Malox Plus. Its doctor-recommended formula neutralizes more than any leading antacid, and it dissolves gas. Where does it hurt?
It doesn't, thanks to Malox Plus.
Ask your doctor about Extra Strength Malox Plus.
There's a big new illegal trading scandal tonight at the world's 2 largest commodities exchanges, the Chicago Board of Trade and the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Justice Department sources say that brokers, traders, and industry executives could be indicted soon. In some cases, traders are said to have taken customers' money without making any investments, or they skim the money from a trade. Here in Washington today, Marion Barry, the city's mayor, testified under subpoena to a federal grand jury investigating his ties to a suspected drug dealer. Barry declared, "I am not in trouble," and his lawyer said the mayor is not a target of the investigation. Last month, Barry visited the suspected drug dealer several times. Indeed, this city of politics is quickly becoming a capital of the drug business. NBC's Lisa Myers reports tonight on the part of Washington that you won't be seeing during the inaugural.
This is an open-air market in the other Washington. Police say you can buy marijuana, crack, cocaine, and PCP here anytime, any day of the year.
Another truck just pulling in. See how they run up to the truck?
It might as well be the drive-through window at the nearby fast food joint, except this place is busier.
You may have as many as 20 to 30 dealers operating at one time. And as the night progresses and more dealers come, they'll start to line up on the street. These are all the boys out here today.
According to police, there are 91 open-air drug markets in this city, some within blocks of the White House. Police say dealers have come here from other cities because, for reasons they can't explain, the D.C. market offers bigger profits, particularly for crack, known as rock on the street.
It costs around $5 for rock in New York City, and you can get about $20 for the same rock in D.C.
As the drug trade has escalated, so has the violence. Virtually every night, police pick up bodies. In 1988, the District of Columbia was the murder capital of the country.
The level of violence and the kind of violence that we experience now is not violence and crime against property, but it is violence against human life.
Even here, in middle-class neighborhoods which largely escaped previous periods of turmoil. At night, drug dealers take over entire blocks.
Are you related to him, sir?
Yeah, I'm his father.
His father? He's been arrested for distribution of crack cocaine. Selling drugs.
More than 45,000 drug arrests in the last 2 years have done little more than clog the courts and the jails. People are angry and frightened. A recent survey found that 1 out of 7 Washington residents had a friend or relative who died or was murdered because of drugs. Lisa Myers, NBC News, Washington.
Entertainer Wayne Newton today accepted a libel award against NBC of $5.3 million for a 1980 broadcast that he said linked him to organized crime. A judge ordered Newton to accept the award or face a new trial in Los Angeles. NBC says that it regrets that Newton rejected a new trial. NBC says it will appeal.
For Post Natural Brand Flakes, Lena Horne on getting the best out of life.
Taking care of my voice, body, and taste buds is what keeps the brass in this horn.
Reach for the best tasting high fiber Bran Flake. Post Bran Flakes at their best.
2 a.m. I've got to get some Z's.
Nitol will help you get your Z's.
Nitol helps you feel drowsy so you can get your Z's.
Nitol will help you get your Z's.
Milk-Bone dog biscuits, dog treats, and flavor snacks. Happy Valentine's Day.
When it comes to buying a laxative, I would buy Dulcolax.
Mary Galdi talks about Dulcolax.
It's predictable. It's very gentle.
Dulcolax, tablets and suppositories.
I would not use anything but Dulcolax because it works.
When my minor arthritis pain acts up, even little things are a big effort. But I don't take aspirin anymore. I take Advil. Advil gives me hours of relief from arthritis pain, and it's gentler to my stomach than aspirin. Advil, advanced medicine for pain.
Look, juicy juice from Libby's is 100% real fruit juice. Other drinks are only 10% fruit juice. Kinda makes you wonder, what's the other 90%?
Juicy juice is a juicier juice.
As President Reagan leaves the White House, he goes with more admiration than any departing president has in 40 years. That, according to our latest NBC News Wall Street Journal survey. Reagan's approval rating is 64%. Other polls put Gerald Ford's final approval rating at 53%, Jimmy Carter's 34%, and Richard Nixon's 24%. Love him or hate him, the Reagan years have been memorable, good times and sad. NBC News producer Frank Schanbacher and editor Bruce Berger recall many of them tonight in this video scrapbook.
So help me God. Now, congratulations, sir. The planes bearing our prisoners left Iranian airspace and are now free of Iran. I didn't know I was shot. In fact, I was still asking, what was that noise? I thought it was firecrackers.
Every time he leaves the house, I think my heart stops.
Do you know who that is? It's the leader of the free world. And she brought her husband.
I do feel badly. I certainly take no joy out of this. But there just is no other choice.
Little Leah Klein was asked by her teacher to describe my duties. She said the president goes to meetings, he helps the animals, the president gets frustrated, he talks to other presidents. How does wisdom begin at such an early age?
It's time the president told us why this sacrifice is justified.
Well, the answer is straightforward: to help bring peace to Lebanon and stability to the vital Middle East. If there is to be blame, it properly rests here in this office and with this president.
United States paratroopers have invaded Grenada with helicopter gunships. Our country is under attack.
I know your frequent use of the word invasion. This was a rescue mission. We stand on a lonely, windswept point on the northern shore of France. These are the boys of Pointe-du-Hoc. These are the men who took the cliffs.
That place, Mr. President, is not your place. Your place is with the victims of the SS.
You already are the oldest president in history. I will not make age an issue of this campaign. I am not going to exploit, for political purposes, my opponent's youth and inexperience.
president had a cancer confined to the wall of his colon.
If we permit terrorism to succeed anywhere, it will spread like a cancer, eating away at civilized societies and sowing fear and chaos everywhere. And all of those who support it, encourage it, and profit from it are abhorrent. They are barbarians.
Boy, after seeing Rambo last night, I know what to do the next time this happens.
Tripoli is under attack.
Today, we have done what we had to do. Gaddafi counted on America to be passive. He counted wrong.
Challenger, go at throttle up.
In one cruel moment, our exhilaration turned to horror. Sometimes when we reach for the stars, we fall short. But we must pick ourselves up again and press on. We bid you goodbye. We will never forget you.
We did not, repeat, did not trade weapons or anything else for hostages.
I was not fully informed.
I'm not going to lie about that. I didn't make a mistake.
Mistakes were made.
I promised when we took office that we would reduce inflation. We have. I promised that we would reduce taxes. We did. I said that we would create jobs for our people, and we did. Yes, there has been an increase in poverty. There is no way that the recovery is even across the country.
We begin bombing in 5 minutes.
We have made history. The language of arms control was replaced by arms reduction.
I want to hear it once more.
I'm going into the surplus business. I have to move on here to another engagement.
Thank you, Mr. President.
That's nightly news for this last Thursday night of the Reagan administration. And tomorrow morning, Deborah Norville will be here for NBC News at sunrise, followed by Bryant Gumbel on Today. And then we'll begin our coverage of the inaugural festivities at 10 Eastern Time here on NBC, and I'll see you then.